And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of Outdoor Journal Radio.
Alrighty then, we are back. Thanks you. Everybody thanks you. I thanks you. Peter thanks you
as well.
Everybody here at Outdoor Journal thanks you. I'm
Come on now.
And we really loves you too.
We love you too. He's Peter Bowman. We have Vova over there behind the screen. Nick will be in and out periodically.
I doubt it.
He's not there now. The empty chair now. We should, what we should do is we should put a picture of him on that.
I'd put that mannequin in there, but I think it's got a little more muscle than Nick does, to be honest with you. A little different shape.
And over there is our good friend Dean Taylor.
Come on
on the
now.
board. I'm Angelo Viola. In case
Speaking of muscle, Dean Taylor on the board, right?
Oh, he's muscle, all right. He's all muscle.
He's got pipes.
Oh, baby.
He must be a plumber because he's got a massive set of pipes on him.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Him and his wife, your wife, actually, maybe should get together, a plumber and a welder.
Oh, well, I was going to say, her pipes are, well, she was snoring pretty good the other night. I recorded my wife snoring the other night. Oh, yeah. The other morning.
Do that.
I did it, and I texted it to her. Because at the very end of it,
God, you can't do that, Peter.
I did about 10 snores. Okay, this is very organic for your folks. All night long, she was doing the old snoring because my wife has some sleeping issues, so she has sleeping aids. It helps, right? Mm-hmm. This was after her alarm went off. She gets up before me. After her alarm, she was still into the heavy snoring, so she went and on a snooze. Okay. She still got back into the snoring. I said, "That's it." I had picked up my phone. And I held it over her head, and then I texted it to her after that.
You can't do that.
And I said, and at the very end of that last snore, I went back. I said, "All effing night," is all I said, and I good and send.
You can't do that anymore.
Why? It's my wife.
Because it doesn't matter. You're insensitive when you do things like that.
I've ever been sensitive?
Well, no, but now you need to be more aware of your, surroundings. And be a little more.
If I go to jail for this one, buddy, then the system has totally crushed and forget it. Let's all just hang ourselves because that's it.
There's nothing worse. Let's talk. Let's be honest about it. You and I have both been exposed to we've been exposed to world-class snorers in our tenure.
Yeah, we have.
World-class, nothing short of world-class. And I got to tell you, no matter how you want to pussyfoot around it, no matter how you want to be delicate about it, no matter how you... It's just an awful
no delicate
thing.
Maneuvering involved.
It's an awful thing.
It is.
So if you're
I love you, honey. Sorry, but that's
fine.
The reality of it is.
And the unfortunate part is that the person doing the snoring obviously is innocent. I mean,
they're getting a great sleep.
They're getting a great sleep.
They get the best sleep ever.
Yeah.
When they're deep like that, that's it. They're in heaven while you're in hell. Yeah.
God almighty. It just brings back all the memories of getting caught with...
we heard Stevie when the power went off this year. Steve Niedzwiecki.
Think about it. Steve Niedzwiecki, world class.
World class. For sure world class. Maybe the champ.
Big brother Reno Viola. He'd be legendary.
Yeah.
Dave Delory. Oh my God.
Dave Delory, but the size of Dean. Right? He wasn't a big guy. He wasn't not even as big as Dean. And Davey had some beef to that snore, didn't he?
And would we say that the greatest, the GOAT of snorers in our world would be...
I thought it would have been one of those three guys, but you got somebody else coming up? Oh my God.
How can I say?
Oh, you're trying to hint? You know the name?
I know the name. I just want to give you a hint.
Okay.
We had to throw footwear at him.
Oh, Blair Locke.
Blair Locke.
He ripped up the tent. There's no doubt about it. He lit her up good. There's no doubt about the volume and the depth of Blair's snoring. Blair, buddy,
I think it put him on a slightly different level than the other three characters that we just mentioned.
You remember, though, the lodge owner? He was in the next cabin, and we could hear him snoring, too. And he was in a cabin about 100 feet away.
By the way, guys, I tend to snore a little bit. So, why is he telling us this? He's not even in the same building we're in. He was like across the field in another shack. Well, we know what he meant.
Yeah, we've met some pros in our day. We need to have an international snoring contest or something.
Oh, my God. But, anyway, sorry if we offended all snorers, but,
They don't care. They sleep well. They're good. They're good with it.
The worst part about snorers, I got to tell you, is that they also, and it's got to be part of the mechanism that's involved in the snoring process, because all snorers can sleep at the snap of a finger.
Yeah. They go down quick.
They can be talking to you and just in mid-sentence start snoring.
Oh, we know the champ. Reno was the champ of that.
He was still taking his clothes off. He was still getting into his pajamas as he started snoring. And it's something inherent in snorers that they can sleep like that. And the problem with that is that generally on the other side of that track is the non-snorer, and inherent with non-snorers is that they don't generally sleep too good.
Well, that's right. We'll get off of this real quick, but my favorite memory of Reno was when we were at Pilot Lake in that little cabin.
My
we were all sitting there, so Reno says, guys, I'm going to bed, because Reno always tapped out early. I'm out. I'm going, boys. I don't care. Reno, we're having a beer here, and we're talking. I don't care. I'll sleep. But so we're literally at the same level that we're talking right now, and all of us laughing and hooting and hollering. And within a second of hitting that pillow, he is snoring while we're yelling and screaming and having a good time. Unreal. The guy was a pro of all pros. He was the best at that camp. Then get up. Of course, you get up earlier than everybody else because you got the best sleep. Hey, everybody, get up. Come on, what are you doing? You gonna sleep all day? Let's go. It's like friggin' dark for 4 more hours.
Oh, we had some great times.
Oh my God, they were the best
what
ever.
A crew we had.
That was the best. Reno, we love you, buddy. We got to get you on the road again.
I was just talking to him the other day.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. He's still the same old guy.
I love him.
Anyways, let's get on with the program, shall we? Wonderful show today. We'll be joined a little later on. Gentleman's name is Rob Racine, and he... aside from running J&B Marine in Timmins and Sudbury, he also has recently started a new enterprise. And think of the concept here. So what they do, it's not just boat rental, but it is a summer boat rental package that they deliver to your cottage. So as an example, if you want a pontoon boat, because you've never owned one before and you think, wow, you know what, pontoon boat might be great for the cottage, rather than making the investment of buying one, you rent it for the season. They drop it off, they show you how to operate it, comes fully equipped with everything you need in terms of safety gear, etc. And then at the end of the season, you predetermine what that end of the season is. They come, they pick it up, they take it away, and it's all over.
That's awesome.
So he's going to join us. It's fascinating. When he first told me about this, I was just beside myself, because I think it's just such a great business.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, I love that.
So he'll come up in the program a little later on. He's also a great guy to talk to about the marine industry, which of course is... who knows where it's at any given time anymore? Up, down, inventory, no prices, inventory, prices, interest. I mean, it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
But first, we have to talk about fishingcanada.com, not because we have to, because we want to.
Yeah.
Because it's a wonderful place to be.
Heck yeah.
Fishingcanada.com. As you go there, you can also go to the shop, shop.fishingcanada.com, or you can go to fishingcanada.com and push on the store, whichever it is, or back and forth during, while.
Yeah.
My wife's into that now, by the way.
Oh, good. Let's break off again. I
My
like
wife
this. I like these talks.
Now.
This organic stuff.
I didn't think I'd ever see this.
She's into fishingcanada.com?
Well, could be. I don't know. I don't look over her shoulder. My wife now watches television while doing this.
What do you mean? Sorry. On her device? Oh, she's watching TV
No.
here?
We're watching The Voice or whatever we're watching, and now she's...
Oh, yeah. Well, I think my wife's on that
Finally.
one too.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. She's on that. She's there now. So anyways,
I do it on commercials. Sometimes I'll do it on commercials. Sometimes I'll look at the phone, do a scroll.
Why?
Or something. Depends why. A lot of times I don't, but sometimes I do. But
anyways, if you are that type, you can read all the wonderful stories. We'll highlight a few of them.
Here's a scenario. On Saturday morning at 8:15, you're watching the Fishing Canada television on the TV, and you're going to our website on fishingcanada.com. And I don't go over to shop.fishingcanada.com, and I can buy a hat there. I can do that, read that article there, and I can watch Ange and Pete.
Excuse me.
Hey, that's a
I think it's a wonderful
trifecta.
idea. And see, for that purpose, I think it's wonderful. I think it's great.
You two-faced bastard.
I think it's wonderful that you multitask. It's good for the brain.
I love it. That's
As long
awesome.
as it's fishing.
That's right. The trifecta of
Then
Fishing Canada.
we're good to go.
We're doing good.
There is a winter sale going on right now, apparently, on Fishing Canada store. The store shop.
You just got some more merch in too, didn't you?
Brand new. I haven't even seen it up there yet,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
assuming it's there now.
Nice.
There's some great new stuff. We're adding stuff as we go. I know. You might look at it and say, "Well, hell, where was this stuff a few weeks ago when I did my Christmas shopping?" Well, you know what? It's going on every day. It's going up all the time, and this is not the only Christmas that we are going to be together. We'll have Christmas next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. So we're just going to keep adding.
Good point.
Just keep adding and keep buying
Good
and
point.
keep telling us what you want, and
Yeah.
we'll all live happily ever after.
Yes.
And there's also a poll there. We really appreciate if you would participate when you go to the store and check out all the new wonderful winter sale items. There's a poll that we'd like you to take, and it will help us better understand what your wants and needs are, because you'll tell us, you'll check off all the items that we've got listed there. Check
I
off
want
the items.
this. I need this.
Exactly.
I want that, and I need the other.
Yeah.
Right.
I particularly love the plaid. I think all those red plaids. There's some new ones. There's 3 or 4 new pieces.
So
in the red plaid.
Canadian.
The hats.
You know.
I think anything plaid is just wonderful.
Absolutely. Agreed.
All righty.
Listener feedback.
Yes, sir.
We got one from Darren Burian. I'm going to call it Burian. Hopefully that
Burying. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting.
via Spotify. And Darren says, greatest outdoor podcast. Well, I could just leave it at that. You know what I mean? That's good enough. But only thing that would make it even better is to get Black Angus and the old crew back once in a while. Those were the good days. And you are so right, Darren. Thanks for saying that.
They were so special.
Like Black Angus, Sean Kelly, what a character. I remember the transition of Sean. When he got in there the first time, he didn't even want to do it. He was so nervous. He was like a train wreck, his first episode. By the end, he was one of our favorite. Look at that
guys.
crew.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
Stellick.
Yeah.
And Reno, and obviously, who's this guy?
Who's that hippie?
Holy mackerel.
I like that shirt he's got on there, mellow yellow. With Sean, by the end of that, remember how his character just transformed into one of the funniest guys? He had this sense of cold sarcasm.
He was so good.
Oh my God, he was
such a talent.
You're right, Darren. We got to get that team back.
They all were. Schlorfie, I mean, oh my God, Schlorfie was outstanding.
Jonathan Winters, what a character.
They were right. And of course, that's where Gord Pizer first got his moniker and personality.
When he graduated university to become a doctor.
When I anointed him a doctor. You know how that came about, eh? Well, because, by the way, for those of you wondering what the hell we're talking about, Darren Burian is referencing the old Outdoor Journal radio show before it became a podcast. And for the better part of 20 some odd years, we had about 4 or 5 characters that were sort of co-hosting the episode each and every week. And they all kind of developed their own style and their own character. And after a while, I mean, they became, I think Black Angus and Sean Kelly probably was as recognizable a character in terms of voice as the show itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And same with Brad Schleff, of course.
All your little segments that you
Gord
had. Jack
Summers. I mean, they were all great characters. They were fantastic. But anyways.
Yeah. And everybody looked forward to it. You always got letters, we always emails and stuff that said,
for sure.
That'd be great.
For sure. And the Countess, don't forget the Countess. She was big on the radio show
beautiful
as well.
Person. Just
the
a beautiful
Countess
person.
from Sandestash.
Yes.
She was another
Huge.
character. We should bring them all on, Dean. Can we do that?
Yeah, that'd be a good show. A reunion show.
Oh my.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Reunion show.
I like that.
We have the desk now.
And there's no time limits, time constraints.
No.
You know what I mean? Because back then, okay, guys, we're going to cut you short.
In and out, right.
And if they want to throw a little bullshit in there or something like that, they can do that too. You know what I mean? There's lots of new stuff we could use.
I like it. Thank you, Darren, for pointing that out to us.
Yeah,
and yes, we will endeavor to bring the crew back at some point.
And thank you to Darren for being a long-time listener, because obviously he's stuck with this whole system.
No kidding. A lot of people transitioned from the... I remember, I have to be honest with you, one of the characters on that show was the actual producer, Steve Labadie, Stevie, he became
That's
like a
right.
regular guy on
too,
the
yeah.
show, right? Because I used to talk to him on, constantly.
Just like
while
Ardeen,
on the
right?
show.
Kinda like
like
Ardeen
Like
there.
Dean, yeah. And I remember him telling me one time, I don't know what the year was, but let's say it was 10 years ago. He said, boss, he says, we should really put this out as a podcast, this show. As a podcast.
I can imagine what you said.
Podcast? What do you mean podcast?
What the hell's a podcast?
He says, yeah. He says, well, we record it and then we'll make it available for people to listen to whenever they want. And I said, why the hell would I want to do that? He said, well, because
No, you would never say that.
I swear to God.
No, I know you would say that. I know you.
I said, so let me understand this. So you want me to spend more money because I know there's going to be production money involved, right? This is yeah, okay. And you want me to put up a platform of some kind I have to pay into to have a podcast? Yeah. And I said, okay, so you want me to spend more money in order for people not to tune in live every Saturday morning at 8:00? Can you tell me in what universe that makes any sense? And he's, well, yeah, I never thought of it that way. You're right. You're probably right. So anyways.
Another good character, though, Stevie. He was great.
Oh, he
I
was
love that guy,
great.
man. He was fantastic.
He
on
was
it.
great. The relationship him
Yeah,
and I had
you
on
guys
the
had
mic
a great
was,
team.
was fantastic.
Going together. So.
Yeah, I miss them all. Those were the good old
Yeah.
days, man. I so much look, this podcast thing is fun and I'm having an absolute blast doing it. But I have to tell you, there is something about live that just cannot be replaced.
Yeah.
Because it's
You've
live.
always liked that. You've always liked that.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
live. There's no replacing it. You're on. Everything counts. Everything matters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different than this. This is a little more laid back. It's fun. It's great because it gives us, we have virtually no boundaries, which you do in live. Your delivery can be whatever it needs to be that particular moment in time, which you can't do in live. Everything is timed there. It's not here.
Yeah.
So it's a different world. I love it, but there's nothing like live. I always used to tell people live is like jumping out of a plane.
Yeah.
Every Saturday morning when that red light went on,
Yeah, it's
you
kinda
just
true, eh?
jump and hope that the chute will open at some point before you hit the ground.
Yeah.
And sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't.
You're dead, senor.
Anyways, thanks for bringing back the memories, Darren.
Yeah.
If you want to give us some feedback, how do they do that, Dean? Like Darren just did. What do they have
I'm
to
pulling them from everywhere now. So he left his on Spotify in the comments. I pulled them from YouTube off the videos. I'm taking them from everywhere now. But we'd prefer you to go to Apple Podcasts and leave an actual review because that helps us in the rankings. It helps us everywhere. The YouTube stuff is awesome. It helps with engagement. But if you can and you listen to it on Apple, if you could go there and leave a review, it'd be appreciated.
So the Spotify rating, just to get it, is not as effective for us. It doesn't help us.
No, we have like 700 reviews there. They do nothing for us in the charts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Can
Folks.
we do anything to alter that?
Send them to Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Go buy an iPhone.
Yeah. Do you have to have an iPhone to
No,
have Apple?
no, you don't.
No. Okay. Another good point there too. Yeah, people should know that. So cool.
Speaking of podcasts, how about the network?
Our podcast network, the highlight.
It's not just a show, although that's how it started life. It is a full network now. We have a bevy of talented podcasters on the Outdoor Journal Network. One of the group the program's called Eating Wild. And I know I can't say stuff like this because the other guys get back to me and
Here we go.
no, but they do.
Here we go.
And I feel for each and every one of them. Listen, it's starting a new gig is never easy. Mm-hmm. It's increasingly more difficult when the boss doesn't pat you on the back near enough. But the folks at Eating Wild, though, they get a lot of pats on the back.
Yeah.
Antonio and the boys
I
are
have to
doing
say,
a great job.
They are doing a good job.
Episode 21 is highlighted right now as we speak. It's called The Power of Bear Meat with Dave Gray.
Is this the latest one, Dean? Their latest one?
Not by the time this comes out,
Okay.
but it's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why
I
we're
like the
highlighting
sound
it.
of this.
Yeah.
I like the sound of this.
Guest is Dave Gray, and he cured his MS symptoms
Wow.
through a wild game diet.
That's amazing.
You got to go there. You got to listen to this podcast.
I have not heard this one yet. So
You have to go there. It is so compelling. Now,
That's
listen,
insane.
Whether it works for everybody or not, I do not know. But I do believe that in this particular case, it worked. And it worked extremely well.
Hey, Vova. Hey, eating meat isn't so bad sometimes, buddy. I mean, if it does, if it does that kind of stuff. Vova's always shaking. No, he doesn't give a shit. I'll say that.
Anyways, he ate primarily fish and bear meat.
I wonder if it's like. I wonder if he'd have done moose or,
We don't know.
venison. Boy, I had venison last night, night before. I had venison. I rarely get venison, but Mikey Burris gave us 4 chops, one per family member, and oh my God, that stuff is good. I love it.
It's moose.
We
is
didn't
my
even
only
marinate it.
No,
So normally you marinate it because there's the gamey stuff and the fatty stuff. Yeah. I love the gamey stuff even more. I like it better non-marinated. But oh my God, sorry, I interrupted. But it was so good, so good. I wonder if there's something to bear meat. Dean, do you know if there's something to bear meat that it makes it?
I think the fat content was really helpful, but he mostly talked about just cutting out carbs and any like processed meat was the biggest one because you don't really know what what you have a lot of the time when you buy it from the store. So I think honestly, if you went to the butcher and really knew what you were eating, you could probably get similar results.
Yeah.
But
Because let's be honest, our North American, at least, our Canadian, let's just say, but I'm sure North American diets are not very good. Even when you try to be good at it, you're probably not doing yourself a whole lot of good, even though what the hell? You want to live and have fun and eat what you like to taste and all that stuff. But there's a lot of shit in food nowadays that probably isn't helping you. And this kind of goes the opposite way. Is that, there's foods that are out there that could be a benefit to the opposite of that. So I think this is amazing. I can't wait to listen to this one.
It's a must. It's an absolute must.
I listened to their I just listened to the St. Clair one. I don't know, Ans, if you heard that one. Yeah,
yes.
The Lake St. Clair one.
Yeah.
That was great. Mr. Dean Dropshot Taylor on there.
Yeah, they gave me a nickname on there. Yeah.
They even told me that you gave yourself that nickname.
I did not.
I
did not give myself a nickname.
They go up there bullshitting everybody now. They said, Dean gave that to himself because he gets his smallmouth all the way. I gotta call those boys out again. But it was listen to that. You got to listen to that episode as well, folks, because there was something in there that I heard and I could not believe my ears about the competitive factor of muskie anglers on Lake St. Clair and what they're doing and how close they're fishing to each other and these little inner battles that they're getting. It's insane. So it's a great podcast to listen to.
It's called Eating Wild, and it's on the Outdoor Journal Radio Network, podcast network as we speak. There are, as I said before, there's more than just them. You'll also find the rest of our podcasters, Dean.
Yep.
Which are?
The Ugly Pike Podcast.
Yep.
Dolo, Diaries of a Lodge Owner.
Dolo, who he hates.
He doesn't like that.
No,
he doesn't. Under the Canopy, of course.
Stevie Dolo.
Under the Canopy, yep.
Yep.
With Jerry Wallet.
Yep.
And we missing anybody?
We have the tackle box as well.
Tackle box as well.
Yep.
Perfect.
Cool.
There you go.
Good
All
listening.
happening right now. If you want podcasts, this is the place to be. And check it out. And leave a comment. Let us know.
Check it.
Know what you think.
Booyah.
In the news, Mr. Bowman.
Yes, this is a good story. Northern United States DNR capture 323 invasive carp. So this is what?
No, I'm just saying that in itself is not big news, but
just capturing them. I mean, but the way they capture. So
that's
the Department
what I'm talking
of Natural
about.
Resources in Minnesota and Wisconsin, they teamed up for this in a pool. Basically, it's called the Pool 6 of the Mississippi River, and they captured 296 silver carp, 23 grass carp, and 4 bighead carp. But the interesting story, part of the story, is how they captured them. So they literally pre-captured some invasive carp, put a tagging system into an electro tagging system into these fish, re-released them back into the water, tracked those fish, and by most fish being a schooling type of grouping type of species, they could capture a bunch. So they drop 1 or 2 tags in, and all of a sudden they're catching 300 fish because of it. You know what I mean?
I'm sure this is not the first time that somebody at DNR or MNRF or any of the other came up with that idea.
Probably not.
No.
But it's obviously very effective.
Sure, it would
for
be.
Fish that are schoolers. Muskies, maybe not. Muskie be an individual fish if you're trying. They turn into individual fish so much. But these guys being schooling
A few
fish.
years ago, I'll let you know a little secret.
Oh, finally. Okay, we're out in the water all the time. You should be telling me every secret every day.
A few years ago, I met a gentleman, an American, on St. Clair, one of those 2 lakes. We were probably pre-fishing a tournament or shooting a show.
Wear your hockey helmet on St. Clair after you listen to that podcast, Dean.
Yeah.
I meant when we wear a football helmet.
It's rough out there.
So an American tournament angler that I ran into, I'm going back now 30 years, maybe 35. He was doing that.
Oh, yeah?
He was implanting, it was smallmouth bass or maybe walleye. I can't
Garlock?
remember.
Was it Dickie
Was
Garlock?
it Dickie I think it was Garlock.
He used to do scuba diving.
I think it was Garlock.
Follow him. Really?
So he was doing a program very similar to that, except he was doing it for his own purposes, and that was to find schooling fish. And so
you
he
shouldn't
would
be saying this. Somebody's going to be doing this now.
Well, I think it's totally illegal.
Oh, it's got to be.
Totally illegal. But he was doing it back 35 years ago.
Wow.
And then doing the same thing.
An electro tag and a 6-pound smallmouth out in the mouth of the St. Lawrence River, and have it follow its buddies.
Let her go. And then
Wow.
have at it. Yeah. So it's totally illegal. Do not do that. I only brought it up because it's kind of connected to the news story.
That's funny. What a great way of capturing. Then I'm sure through netting and electroshocking, what they did here to capture you get the area that where these fish are in, especially with electroshocking. You got your tag sending out a signal. Okay, boys, let's shock right in this little area right here as big as this office. But all of a sudden,
We've been involved in shocking programs.
It's pretty cool.
They're pretty cool.
Dean did it.
I was involved this year. Yeah, it was cool.
Dean and Boba.
Oh yeah, you guys watched that too.
We got a bowfin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
I'm surprised
Everything
you
else
knocked
was
one of those
tiny.
things out because they're friggin' tough as nails.
Yeah.
Right?
We did it in largemouth bass in Florida somewhere a few years back. Oh my
A
God!
lot of years back.
That was crazy.
It's pretty neat how they do that. We'll just talk very quick about that. But they got these probes that go into the water and they set a certain amount of voltage. I think there's hardly any amperage. I think it's all about voltage on that one, and.
Well, it would have to be because if you had amperage going on,
usually amperage kills the humans. I don't know what it does, and water through water and all that stuff. But but anyways, these fish they turn up. You shocks them. They turn up real quick and up to the surface, and you're thinking, oh, okay, it'll be easy pickings. They come to as fast as they come up. So they come up. They have to get their nets out there real quick and scoop them up and put them into a big cooler. Then they do their little fin samples and their little scale samples, and all of a sudden these fish are perfect. They drop them back in the water and they swim away like nothing happened. So it was crazy, eh?
That was excellent.
And you wouldn't believe how many fish would come up
in one area.
Bass,
what was surprising about that experience for me was it just showed you, because we'll fish miles and miles of undercut, bank, for example, if you're largemouth bass fishing, you'll go miles without a snip, and all of a sudden, boop, 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 3 fish. Well, this really exemplified that because we would go literally for several hundred yards with nothing, and then all of a sudden, one little part would have 20, 30 fish come up to the surface.
Yeah. So how they all group together and different sizes. Your bait fish group with your panfish group with your bass, because they're all kind of feeding on each other, sort of thing, right? And the bait fish are there because of maybe the microorganisms or whatever it is. It's crazy.
And it was an interesting story. It's on fishingcanada.com as we speak. It's in the news section. I'm assuming that's correct, Dean. You feel free to jump in and straighten me out anytime I veer.
When you're correct, he doesn't need to straighten you out.
I see, okay.
You see, you're on the straight and narrow. It's funny, very very quickly. Again, that in that same sense, I was just on the Bay of Quinte with Mikey Burris last weekend, and we drove our Garmin traditional screen over so much dead water, trying to get, and finally that thing started to light up. Bait fish, walleye, lake trout, everything. Boom, started catching fish. It's funny that you're right. They just group up in certain areas. You know what I mean?
So bait is obviously the key. We think it's the key. We think the predators are there because the bait is there. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be a reason why the bait is there. And I think that's probably the most important key of all.
Yeah, it is.
Is why is food there?
You know what my quick theory on that one was, and that's an instance, we found the fish in the deepest water out there. So 120 plus feet of water. They weren't in the 80s. They weren't in the 60s. So maybe the bait fish feel secure, maybe more secure in that deep, dark water where they can either go up or down or whatever, maybe.
Well, think about it. In shallower water, they've got limitations.
They've got
the surface, and they've got the
feel confined too, maybe.
Exactly.
Right? So,
whereas in big open water, they have
that's what my thought
comfort
was.
level.
Yeah.
So it's nothing really that draws them there other than the vastness of their surroundings. It's not like they're there because of temperature, not because they're feeding on...
For sure not temperature, for sure. Now, maybe it's food, but it's for sure not temperature. You know what I mean? So,
interesting.
Fishing, so interesting all the time, eh?
Fan question of the week, Mr. Bowman.
Yes, this is submitted by another name I'm going to have to try and not butcher here. Anthony Starich.
No, there's a U in there, buddy.
Staruch,
I would go with.
Staruch. Anthony,
from Manitoba.
Sorry about that, Anthony.
Manitoba, Canada.
I'm assuming it came into us by via email at info@fishingcanada.com.
Yep.
So Anthony states, obviously the first rule should be it's up to you to check conditions and work within your own personal risk level. But with the slow freeze of this season, what is your, Angelo's mine, I'm assuming, comfort level for getting out on first ice? That's a great question. It's timed perfectly as it's about to happen. But it's happening north.
There are some standards that are put out in this part of the world by M&R each year. And I believe that's what we're quoting here, Dean?
Yeah.
So they're stating that 4 inches is the absolute minimum amount of ice that anglers should look for when heading out onto a lake. Okay. I think that that may be correct according to them. I would not suggest, and the problem I say this, and hear me out before we go any further, there is never going to be a totally consistent sheet of ice that you can run for miles without it changing from 10 inches to 6 inches to 7 inches to 2 inches to 4 inches, et cetera, and that's dictated by all kinds of natural elements. So you're never going to find an absolute perfect sheet of ice. So when they're saying 4 inches, you can't feel really comfortable knowing full well that there could be some 2.5 inch areas up ahead without you knowing. Right?
People picture what Angelo's saying. Ice surface is like this, beautiful. It's flat all the way along, but underneath that ice, it's like this.
Changes up and down all over the place.
So
So 4 inches, they're saying is bare minimum. Yeah, okay, but it has to be consistently 4 inches.
A good solid 4 inch ice.
In order to really feel comfortable. For those with sleds and ATVs and other motorized vehicles, other than a truck or a car, you got to have at least, in my opinion, 6 inches. They're saying 5. I always like to err on the side of caution. I would say 6 inches if you're going to run a snowmobile or an ATV across a sheet of ice. 6 inches as a bare minimum. According to M&R, that will hold support around 1,200 pounds, 6 inches. So that's perfectly fine.
ATVs, skidoo, sleds, snow machines, stuff like that.
The most important one, and this is the one where I used to report every Saturday morning from, first week of January till mid-March. This is where you want to drive your vehicle out on the ice, where you want to take a truck, you want to tow a hut, you want to, like that whole business. To me, I would say that 12 to 15 inches would be the depth of ice that I would look for, although once again, M&R is saying 8 to 15. Mm-hmm. My problem with 8 to 15 is what I said about the 4 inch. It's not consistent. You could get some 6 inch ice, some 4 inch ice while you're traveling along. And that's when I used to report every Saturday morning the people that would go through the ice on Lake Simcoe that the OPP and RCMP helicopters had to go out and
it seems to happen there more than anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
Simcoe
my God.
It was
every week.
But Quinte ice is horrible too. But I just had a thought here. I bet you if you were up on Lake of the Woods or smaller, way up northwestern Ontario, you said you had 5 inches of ice up there. I bet it's a lot different than 5 inches of ice down here. I think down here in the south, we got such crazy weather patterns.
Hot, cold.
It's insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Up there, when it gets cold and there's 5 inches of ice, I'll bet you, or Manitoba maybe for Anthony here, if he's in northern Manitoba, I'll bet you 5 inches up there no matter what. It's probably good
solid
ice.
It's solid ice.
Yeah, it could be. All I know is when I was young, and for all you younger anglers that like to get out there and do your thing, I got to get out there. Don't do what I did. I used to take that spud and I'd walk around on the Bay of Quinte and I'd go, pop. Okay, that's good. Take another step. Through. Oh, shit. No. Pop. Okay, that's good. Through the. Don't do that. I've done that before, and I'm not proud of it because I did it once in my life, and I was so scared. And I didn't get any fish that day. I didn't get any fish. I will not be doing that again. I didn't go that far offshore, but I was so stupid. Just my spud was just, it could pop. The best ice I had was 1.5 inches.
So
maybe, something like that.
And age has nothing to do with it, by the way. Stupidity is not
limited.
But
if
is not limited to people.
Like I know now, if I still had that much gung-ho-ness, I don't think I would have. I don't have that much, maybe. So my age, to me.
Now, what you were doing was relatively safe.
Relatively, yeah, because I didn't die. I'm here today.
No. I mean, relatively safe is good because before you took a step, you would check the ice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it went through, you would move. I'm assuming you would check the ice over here, and then you would check the ice over there until you
Which
made
means
your
is
way.
exactly what Angela was saying, that underneath was not as good.
Exactly.
Yes, but I was doing that.
The reason I say it's not limited to age is that our good friend Stephen Nitzwicki and I
Speaking of dummies.
did exactly that not more than 4 or 5 years ago, just prior to pandemic, whenever that was, yeah.
Okay.
We wanted to go, there was a cottage for sale on Lake Muskoka.
You guys weren't even fishing.
No, it was dead of winter, and we wanted to go look at it.
Yeah.
And it was on an island. And so we said, well, this doesn't look like it's that far from shore. Why don't we just walk it?
I love it.
We'll stop at the local Canadian Tire and get a couple of big spuds.
Yeah.
And we'll do that. We thought, yeah, how bad can it be? We looked at it on the map. It looked like about a half a mile, max to go out there. Maybe a little bit longer. But anyways, it wasn't that far. And so we did. And it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
How we ended up making it there and back was totally beyond me because for the most part, the ice was not thick enough.
It's scary, isn't it? Like when you
It's
start
scary.
when you pop that thing through it.
And what started out as a straight half mile, it was like 3 miles before we got there, and even longer coming back because by the time we decided to come back,
it blown over.
And things had changed, and so we had a whole new route, and it was like a 5 mile trek with zigzagging.
I bet you Dean's done it. I bet you spudded your way around.
Yeah, I've done it,
Yeah.
and it's worse in the dark. It's
Oh
terrifying.
my
in the dark.
God! I would not even try
in all
that.
fairness to us, we wore our inflatable life jackets.
Yeah, I think I probably had a floater suit on at the time.
So
too,
if you are going to be stupid and do that, first 2 things. Number 1, never, ever, ever do it on your own. Always have at least one person with you, for sure. And then always, always have some kind of flotation device.
and make sure a big guy like Steve goes first.
Oh, I made sure of that. Don't you worry about that.
You lead the way, Steve. You're pretty experienced, buddy.
What a nightmare that was. But we made it. It's not something I'd recommend.
Yeah, we don't recommend it at all. But that the floater suit thing and life jacket or whatever, that's a great idea.
Spikes.
That's mandatory down here. Like
You
I
have
wouldn't
to.
go out without it anymore.
You have to.
It's yeah.
And there's so many good ice fishing suits available now too, right? That floater suits.
And they're
It's
not
just as
bulky,
big-
they're actually nice, yeah.
Exactly. So and they're warm.
It's worth the money.
Yep.
And the little spikes.
Yes, that you have to have what Angel's talking about there around your neck. Just keep that around your neck, and that right there could save your life so easily. So.
But most important, don't do it on your own. That's
Anthony,
probably
if you're up northern Manitoba, that 4 inches, something like that, might be a good number. If you're in the
Maybe.
south, you might want to be more cautious at that. So there you go.
There's an adventure just outside these walls.
It's something you'll hate to leave and can't wait to get back to.
It's a place where memories are made and bonds are forged.
For some, it's hitting the trails. For others, it's a weekend at the lake. It's a place full of campfires and quality time.
This year, take some time to reconnect with friends, family, and nature. No matter what adventures await you, Coleman has the gear you need. Visit colemancanada.ca to gear up today.
The outside is calling.
Answer the call.
What brings people together more than fishing and hunting?
How about food?
I'm Chef Antonio Maleka, and I have spent years catering to the stars. Now, on Outdoor Journal Radio's Eatin' Wild podcast, Louise, Hooksett, and I are bringing our expertise
and Rolodex to our real passion, the outdoors.
Each week, we're bringing you inside the boat, tree stand, or duck blind and giving you real advice that you can use to make the most out of your fishing game.
You're going to flip that duck breast over once you get a nice hard sear on that breast. You don't want to sear the actual meat.
And it's not just us chatting here. If you can name a celebrity, we've probably worked with them. And I think you might be surprised who likes to hunt and fish.
When Kit Harington asks me to prepare him sashimi with his bass, I couldn't say no.
So whatever Taylor Sheridan wanted, I made sure I had it.
Burgers, steak, anything off the barbecue. That's a true cowboy.
All Jeremy Renner wanted to have was lemon ginger shots all day.
Find Eating Wild now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
Alrighty, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of the episode. As we mentioned at the beginning of the program, a very unique company, although it's not a separate company, I don't think we'll find out here in a minute, it came to light for us about boat rentals in this country, which is something that's been needed for such a long time. Joining us now is the president of J&B Cycle, Rob Racine. Rob, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great, Rob. We're doing great.
Am I right? Is J&B Cycle and Marine sort of spearheading this Freedom cruise seasonal boat rental thing, or is it all one or separate, or how's it work?
So it is a separate corporation, although it is tied to J&B Cycle and Marine from an inventory standpoint. So that's where the boats are purchased from. So from J&B Cycle.
How did you come up with J&B Cycle? Your name's Rob Racine.
Yeah, that goes back.
You knew that was coming.
I was a year old when it was founded, so I wasn't involved at that time. I didn't get involved with J&B Cycle till 2006. So yeah,
Okay, a little bit of history for both of you gentlemen. This is not my first brush with J&B Cycle.
Okay.
I met the original J&B Cycle owner. I'm trying to think of the year, but it would have been, I'm going to say 78.
Wow.
77.
Getting right on the number.
77, 1978. My brother and I were distributing a product called Vespa scooters. The company was actually Piaggio, which is Fiat.
Yeah.
We were the Canadian distributors for the scooter and mopeds and three-wheeled little truck things that they had. And I remember making a trek in the dead of winter to Northern Ontario to visit with J&B Cycle. And they may have been the very first Northern Ontario, let me straighten that out because we had a shop in Toronto that was handling them. Northern Ontario retailer of Vespa scooters.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was J&B Cycle.
Look at that. Look at the history you brought out here this morning.
I know. So that's kind of cool.
Beautiful.
So I guess it shouldn't be strange to think that J&B Cycle can wander off the beaten path every once in a while. If they can sell Vespa scooters, surely to God they can rent boats, which is a fantastic idea. Tell us about it, Rob.
Well, that's the one thing about being as far north as we are is you have to be diverse. So you have to be everything to everyone in many cases because our seasons are far too short. So we couldn't be sustainable at the level that we are, volume wise with just marine or just snowmobiles or anything else for that matter. So we need to be we're what I call a family big box. So when you come into our store, it's very diverse, clothing, parts. I always say we sell everything but airplanes.
Wow.
And literally we do, from hot tubs to barbecues to tractors.
Oh, wow.
To you name it. Yeah, we've got it all. So.
Okay, cool.
The notion of renting a boat for a season
Well, it's not new because we used to be able to rent small fishing boats, right? That used to be the deal when you go camping. I remember my dad and I and my brother, we used to go rent in Picton. We'd rent a boat for a week. And we brought our own motor and we put it on a rental boat. You could rent the motor and boat. That was different. That's a little 14-foot aluminum fishing boat sort of thing, right? Now we're moving on.
This is different. And when Rob first told me about it, I thought, you know what? I got to look into this, but I don't think anybody's doing that in Canada. And sure as hell, I checked. I couldn't find anybody that's doing what they're doing.
Right.
What they're doing is delivering a boat to your cottage for the season.
Totally
so
different.
Tell us about that, Rob.
Yeah, so it's you're right in saying that the boat rental concept is not new. So but it's been daily rentals, hourly rentals in some cases, weekly, and then now monthly. And the monthly stuff I think is playing into the Airbnb product as well. That's where you're seeing the monthly boat rental play in. In the U.S., we saw something called the boat clubs. So this is where you put down X amount of dollars, you became a club member, and then for so many dollars a month, basically you could access a boat. Well, in Canada, that's a little more difficult because, we don't have 11 and a half months of boating like they do in Florida. So when we first explored that concept, it just didn't work in the sense of a business model and having someone make payments over the course of, the long winter. So this idea played off some of what the automotive industry has done with automobile leasing or car leasing, that everybody is driving around with today. And that's kind of where we began exploring how that would work for us in our market where, we would get good used product back and also for the consumer that it made sense from a price-wise for them.
I correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that there was somebody trying this in Toronto. The Freedom.
There is Freedom Boat Club that's out of the U.S. and I believe they have locations in Toronto, Hamilton. They may be Kingston area. I'm not quite sure. You'd have to look them up. But yes, they are making their way in the bigger centers. It might make sense in accessibility and that sort of thing. As you go further north, again with the season being so short, it's a little tougher. That's where our concept is a little bit more catered to that market, the cottage country and north.
Right.
So those boats behind you, Rob, those two big Princecraft pontoon boats, they are available for people to rent for an entire summer sort of thing? Something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So the pontoon boat platform has been the thrust behind our program. Although we do have fiberglass runabouts, we have fishing boats that you can have as well. The pontoon boat has certainly been the one vehicle that has been the most popular. And I think the reason for that is the number of people that you can get on board. So the number of people that get to experience that is far greater than it would be in let's say a 16-foot side console.
Right.
And price-wise, we've tried to kind of, hit that sweet spot where it makes sense for someone to rent for the season rather than to own a boat for 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the interesting concept too, and those boats that you just referred to, the pontoon boats are the perfect example of that. Some people that have cottages, maybe have had a family runabout for the last 20 years. And they've always thought, boy, it'd be kind of cool to see.
Seeing everybody drive by in these big pontoon 23-footers.
But they got to be, I don't know whether I want to buy one of those or not. But boy, what a great opportunity now.
No kidding.
To try it because it's relatively inexpensive. Rob will give us some pricing here in a minute. But what a great opportunity to try your boat before you make that investment of buying the boat. And see, I think it's fantastic.
Or even the opposite of what I was talking about earlier. If you got your little 14-foot tinner, that's all you fish out of. And you're always seeing these guys in the nice fishing boats going by, a big Princecraft, a 17-foot Princecraft, whatever. Maybe, I'm not sure what Rob is available. You can probably get you into something close to that in your life and try it for a year and say, wow, okay, that's it.
Now I'm ready to go. Yeah. Or you might think, hey, you know what? I don't mind this because every year I get to get a new boat.
Right.
I can get some new toys on it. I can get a different size. I can get a different configuration. Why would I want to buy one?
Yeah.
That's got to be what's happening with your customers, I'm sure, Rob.
Oddly enough, 50% of our clientele own other boats.
Okay.
So when we deliver, specifically with the pontoon boat, when we deliver the pontoon boat, odds are that there is another boat on the dock when we get there or in the boathouse.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, to give you a couple of examples, you've got the grandparents who have a cottage that they've had for, ever in the family. They have an older glass boat, or they have a woody, or they have something else that sits there that they use, that they enjoy to run about the lake with. But all of a sudden now they're having the extended family, or the grandkids are coming up for a couple of weeks or a month this summer. Well, for them to go and buy a boat to suit those couple of weeks or a month, it really, it doesn't really make sense. Where this way, as I said, we deliver the boat in the spring. It comes fully equipped, so the life jackets, all the safety equipment, the licensing, the insurance, the mooring, the mooring lines, the bumpers, everything's there. We put it on your dock. We give you an instruction on obviously how to use it, all the features, benefits, all that good stuff. And we're always a phone call away if you have any questions. And basically, it's your boat for the whole summer. When you're done with it in the fall, you basically call us a week prior or something like that and say, okay, guys, I'm done. We're leaving here next week. We show up, we pick up the boat, it goes away, and that's it.
See, that's huge too. The no storage thing, right? Like that's just the storage is always
no
a problem.
winterizing.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly. Is it in your driveway? Have you got a storage place? How much is that going to cost you for storage and all the that's pretty amazing actually.
Now, these are new boats, I'm assuming, Rob.
So that's the other beauty of this program. We've all rented cars. We've all, booked the Mustang convertible and got there, and they said, "Wow, we're sorry, sir. The Mustang didn't make it back. It's late, but we have the Toyota Camry over here."
Really nice car, by the way. It's the same color as the Mustang.
Yeah, exactly. So in this case, again, there is some flexibility in color and models. We have everything from 14-foot to 23-foot in the fleet, and we can go larger for those customers that want something kind of off the menu. But for all intensive purposes, we have kind of the cookie cutter models that kind of fit the best mold sort of thing. And you can so we have rear lounge models, we have tri-tune models, and we have as small as a 14-foot fishing model in a pontoon.
All right, let me ask you a question. So I'm a customer of yours, and I had a wonderful experience with one of those beautiful little Princecraft boats behind you. But during the summer, my neighbor showed me this beautiful tri-tune 40-footer with two 300s on the back, and it had the electric bimini cover and all the bar and the thing and stuff like that. And hey, guess what? Princecraft makes that boat too. Could they come to you a year in advance and say, hey, Rob, next year I want to rent that beautiful 40-foot tri-tune with the two 300 horsepower motors on the back?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely, as I said, we'll go off menu for any of those requests, and we've had a couple of them, and we're working through those actually for this spring. Some people that want a specific model. So there's two parts to that. One is when we deliver the boat, we have the rental agreement, which is pretty standard. And then we give you a copy of the bill of sale. So in a sense that if you wanted to, we'll call it a quotation. So if you wanted to purchase the boat at the end of the season when we wouldn't pick it up, the number. If your neighbor wants to buy the boat, or your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, your cousin, whatever, it doesn't really matter to us. We will extend that price to them as well. Okay. The other side of it is if you said, after you've experienced this, that you really enjoy the boat, and maybe you want that boat, or you want something different color, different interior, engine, log configuration, whatever the case may be, and you were to order a boat or purchase a boat from our existing inventory, we would give you 50% of the rental back towards the purchase of that boat.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
So it's almost a rent to buy kind of a setup.
Pretty much, yeah. Try before you buy.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And that same boat, let's say I run that boat for a year, and I say, that's great, Rob, but I'm going to get something else next year. And Ange walks into your showroom. Is that boat now for sale to the general public, or is it going to be a renter next year again? Or
So every boat that's delivered at the beginning of the season is new, and every one of those new boats will be sold in the fall. So they go on the market midsummer. We start to put them out there, and we'll start taking deposits through the summer, through the fall. So most all of our fleet from this past year is sold, with the exception, I think there's 2 left. That's it.
And I think the important thing there, because I was going to ask a question earlier on, and that was about repairs and problems that do from time to time crop up in boats and motors. But the fact that this is brand new product, it'd be no different than you buying that product. If it was going to have a fault, it'll have a fault anyways. The difference here, I'm sure, is that if there's a problem, the customer just picks up the phone and says, Rob, this boat's not running, and you send somebody down to fix that?
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point about it being a new boat, we're limiting the exposure of there being an issue. So that is the first part of being a new boat. And the same reason why we want to renew the fleet every year. To have a 3-year-old boat with, a couple hundred hours, you're increasing the probability of there being an issue, which we don't want to have. Again, with being in business for 53 years, we've got a pretty strong service team. We have locations in Timmins, Sudbury, and now we've signed up with Trailer World in Brantford. So we've got the Southwest covered, we've got the Muskokas covered, we've got Northern Ontario covered. So we can respond in a pretty quick fashion if we need to be. Obviously, we're going to try to filter through those issues over the phone. We did see some smaller issues this last year, and as a result, every boat this year will have a battery switch.
Ah, there you go. Everybody's going to the battery switch.
You know what happened and why we need that.
Oh, yeah. That's a great idea. I'm surprised all boat manufacturers aren't automatically putting them on the boats now, although a lot of them are.
Now we got to get people to use the battery switches. That's the other thing. At night, turn her off. That's all you got to do, people.
So, you mentioned insurance earlier on. We kind of brushed through it. I think it's important that we talk about that as well. And the reason being is that if I have one of those pontoons tied to my dock, and my son-in-law comes up for the weekend and decides that he wants to take it out, and he runs it, I don't know, into another boat, he runs it aground, runs it somewhere, he's screwed up. I'm not suggesting that my son-in-law is a screw up. I don't think. Would I be suggesting that?
No comment. He's pretty big.
But what happens in that case? I mean, is the insurance limited to the contracted individual, or does it extend to his family, or how would that work?
So the insurance is treated very similarly to if you owned the boat yourself. So think of it again, if we could go to the automotive leasing, the insurance is in your name, and it's also in the automaker's name or the leasing company's name.
Right.
So there's 2 names on there. Our insurance works the same way. Essentially, the boat is treated as if you owned it. So the liability would be yours, in the sense of, something of your actions that happened out on the water.
Okay.
To your point about your son-in-law or anyone else for that matter, if they're a licensed boater, they can operate the watercraft. There's no issue with that. However, if I don't know, if I'm trying to think of an example of where if they did something, then it would fall on your record, sort of thing, no differently than it would be on anything else that you owned.
Right.
So that we have to drill into the background of what insurance companies do in those cases.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, it's just like you own the boat. It's the same
thing. That's a great concept. I love the idea of we haven't talked price yet. I'm going to make an assumption at this point that it is priced at a point where people do have to look at it and say, "Wow, this makes a lot of sense." What give us an indication of pricing?
So once again, we deliver the boat to you. So there's the one caveat is there's no trailer, and we've eliminated the trailer from the equation because that really reduces the liability.
Absolutely, that's good thinking right there. That's good thinking right there. Yeah, for sure.
So when we talk about tow vehicles, backing down the boat ramp,
exactly.
All of that stuff, right? So we kind of take that out of the picture, and we we look after that for you by delivering it with our own truck. So our truck puts it in the water. As I said, it comes with everything that you need to run the boat. You just add the water. For starting at a 14-foot pontoon boat, you're looking at about $4,200 for the season plus tax. And our most popular last year was a 21-foot with a 60, which was $49.95.
So for $5,000, I've got a 20-foot pontoon boat with a 60 horsepower motor on it for the summer.
Yeah. So there's 2 fees that get tacked onto that. Of course, there's the delivery fee and pickup, which is $500. So we've done that. If we're coming from Sudbury and going to Muskoka, if we're coming from Brantford and going to Lake Erie, it's $500.
I was going to ask you, is there a delivery area that you won't go, or do you go all over Ontario sort of thing, or?
So I would say we would, from right now we're looking at the Kawarthas, the Muskokas, southwestern Ontario. That's kind of where, if we're going to go beyond that, it would be, again, off menu, but it would be very small, very small addition to that.
Right.
So
it's not that much more off menu from where you are. I mean, you're talking Eastern Ontario, basically, or something like that. Yeah. So it's not that much different, really. So good. That's great. Yeah. I was wondering if it was just going to be a northern thing, or you branched out that much further. That's awesome.
So if I'm in the Kawarthas or the Muskokas, and for 2024, next year, I want to have a pontoon boat. I want a 20-foot or 22-foot pontoon boat sitting at my dock when I open up the cottage.
Yep.
I would call you up.
Yep. We
would cut a deal. I pay you the $4,900. I'm assuming that's paid in advance.
So this time of year, we take a deposit. And we earmark a boat for you. Okay. And then prior to delivery, call it a week, whatever, then we take balance of the payment and deliver the boat. And we could take major credit cards. We can do e-transfers. You can do a brown bag of cash. It really doesn't matter to us.
So what's the value? What's the value? He knows some of my dealings.
So the Vespa scooter guy started that up there. I guarantee you.
Give me an indication of what the value of that $5,000 boat that I'm paying you $5,000 for. What's the value of it?
Yeah. Just to clarify, so your $5,000 when we add the $500 delivery to and from, we have to add the HST to that component. So this past year for a 21-foot boat with a 60 horsepower delivered for the season, you were about $6,100 all in.
Okay, $6,100. I got it.
Everything.
My card will handle that, so I'm good with that. Now, what's the value of that boat?
So new to purchase, the value of that boat is, we'll call it $40,000.
$40,000. So for about 25% of the value of the boat, rough figures, don't quote me on that, I can have a boat delivered. I can be worry-free. It's going to be there on the 15th of June, whatever the date we arrange. Somebody's going to drop it off, put it in the water, tie it up to my dock. It's going to be fully equipped. I don't need to do anything short of adding gasoline to the tank, I'm assuming, unless you guys deliver it with gasoline. I don't know.
It comes full of gas.
Full of gas. There you go. And I pay you the value, roughly 25% of the value of it. I use it, I abuse it, I do whatever I want with it all season long. You come in at the end of the season with your trailer. I don't have to get my waders on. I don't have to get wet at all. You pick up the boat, take it away, shake hands. Thank you very much. Off you go. It's a no-brainer.
And these are all, I'm assuming they're all 4-stroke motors, so nobody has to add oil or anything like that?
No, they're all 4-stroke. We, of course, run every one of them before we deliver them.
Yep.
In some cases, we'll wet test them before they go. If they have things like trolling motors and other things that are going on them, then we'll want to, confirm that all that stuff is networked, it's working in the boat before we take it. So yeah. And cool. You said use and abuse, which, you've heard the saying, drive it like you stole it. Or,
right.
it really
stole it.
It really isn't that way. We haven't experienced that at all. Everything has been kept as good as people owned it, and that is the thing about this seasonal rental is people are treating it as if it was their own.
Right.
So there's a sense of ownership with our product because it is on your dock 24/7. So it's not like the weekend Mustang that I'm going to wake up at 6 and run the wheels off it because I got to return it tomorrow by 4.
Right.
And something else just occurred to me, the old keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, who has to know about this other than you and the customer?
That's right.
I mean, I might have
got a new pontoon boat.
Exactly. I just got
Bobby Dazzler. Look at him now. This new
and
Twin 300s.
not only that, but I'm going to get rid of it at the end of the year and get a new one next year.
That's right. Look at you. Yeah. Look at you go. Might as well start doing that with your cottages too.
I think it's a great idea, man. It's fantastic. How did this come about?
So once again, looking backwards, pre-COVID, we were looking to try to capture more used boats in our yards, right? So especially pontoon boats, they're just so hard to find. And at the same time, I had been down in the Florida area and had seen the boat club concept down there and wondered how we could bring that to Canada and how we could make that work. And again, to what I was saying earlier is the model didn't fit our northern geography and climate. So this is where we got together with Princecraft. We discussed, if we were to add X amount of boats to our order, is this something you could fulfill? They've been great working with us and making that happen because we only have so much space in our yards, and you can only get 3, maybe 4 pontoons per load. So, we have to time those in such a way that we can get them into our yard, get them PDI'd, and get them out there. So there's quite a bit that goes on behind the scenes. Even though winters are long in Northern Ontario, there isn't a day that goes by that we're not touching something to do with boating.
Right on.
So basically, we put the program together. We worked through the insurance and legal aspects of it. And we did a pilot project last year, which was extremely successful. The number of boats that we allocated for the pilot all went. And then we added, I think there was another dozen that went on top of that were, many of those were off menu. So they were different models and that sort of thing. So that kind of gave us the recipe for what would probably work best for this year. And so far it's been good.
I'm assuming pontoon boats are the most popular. Is that the most popular?
Absolutely.
What is the
95% of our fleet are pontoon boats.
Right. Wow. Have you had any higher end Princecraft fishing boats that anybody wanted to rent for the year?
Not yet. We just took a really nice one on trade.
That's a really nice one, by the way, everybody. Just to let everybody know.
Not FNC one, but pretty close.
If somebody could rent that boat, oh my God!
We just delivered. Actually, Rob came in and picked up our Princecraft boat that we used on the Fishing Canada show this year. It was part of we had predetermined that Rob was going to end up with that boat.
And she's a beauty.
She is a beauty.
If you buy it, or if Rob puts it through the Freedom system, you get a chance to rent that for a year. Oh my God, you're going to look good out there.
Though, I now that I think of it, I think the pontoon boat is perfectly built for this program because, and we'll take a 20-foot boat with a 300 on the back or whatever. It's not something that just anybody can jump into. Whereas a pontoon, you literally could. You could take a novice boat driver, or even a first-time boat driver, put them in a pontoon boat, a 16-foot, 18, or even a 20-foot pontoon boat. And it's not a big learning curve, is it? It's not that big of a deal. That's the nice thing about it.
Yeah. No, they're daunting in the sense when you look at them, especially on the trailer. They look so big, but they're actually, they're very light. They're very basic in the sense of I don't have to worry about a boat plug. If we get heavy rain, I don't have to lose sleep over the fact that it might there's a lot of those things. And again, like I said earlier, is that everybody can take part. The whole family can take part.
Yeah.
And part of our pitch is that you can have a boat on your dock for the entire summer at your, at arm's length for less than taking your family to a beach vacation for a week.
Let's think about that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true.
I was listening.
And if it rains for 3 of those days while you're at the resort, you don't get those back.
That's right. That's right. I was thinking about when you guys are saying the intimidation factor of the size of the boat and driving it. I've never driven a big pontoon boat, so I don't know what it's like. But I'll give an example. When we started running that big RV, remember we ran these full-size RVs, Rob, for a couple of years. And I got behind that wheel and I was shitting my pants. I said, I can't. This is like a friggin' tractor trailer. Within minutes, you're driving that thing like you're a pro. We started towing our 198 behind it. We were backing that into spots with the RV and all that. So it's not as bad as people think. Don't be so intimidated by the size of these rigs, because a lot of times when they're bigger, they're actually easier to drive.
Especially pontoon boats. I think it's one of the easiest watercrafts to handle without question.
Yeah, they excellent visibility for the driver.
Right.
So you've got basically 360 view. They are, they float like a cork, so they are a little bit susceptible to wind. But I mean, you can adjust to that fairly easily, and we'll go through that with you when we deliver at your dock. We'll show you the best angle to come in. Low and slow.
The only place that really matters is getting into a lock. When you have to go through a lock, then it becomes,
and there's 80 people watching you. Okay, Martha, you take the wheel, please.
And your wife's screaming and yelling at you, over to the right. Oh my God, I want to die. Other than that, they're pretty cool. They've really come a long way with these things too now, with the tri-tunes.
Oh my God,
in terms of performance.
Good.
Oh my God,
they run up on the pad and everything. Like they're fast. Some of them.
And that's the Princecraft totally redesigned their Vectra series for 2024, which is the perfect fit for our model lineup. So you're getting a completely redesigned boat for this year. And we've added the rear lounge models. We've added the tri-tune models, and we're keeping the traditional L-shaped furniture model as well to keep that price point where we want it to be, and at the same time offering those added benefits. So I recently had a customer from North Bay. We'll be delivering that one in the spring. They chose to add a full camper enclosure and a ski bar. So,
nice.
And we'll do that.
Yeah. Nice. Is it safe to assume that a customer can get a pretty good idea of what the price is going to be if they use that 25% number that we talked about?
It's amazing the number of people that crunched those numbers before. And I had one gentleman last year, he says, I could do this for 12 years before.
Exactly.
It would have been, And at that, on that note, he hasn't factored in storage and servicing and all the other stuff that goes with that. So
it's and just the benefit of having a brand new boat every year.
Oh my God.
I mean, that alone.
How nice is that?
Is worth the...
And the cottage is all about entertaining too, right? Even if you're just entertaining your own family, just going out for a cruise. But when you have friends over every weekend, that pontoon boat becomes a huge part of that weekend too, right?
Funny you say that, cottage, but could this also be just a boat that you moor at a marina? And
you could rent a slip and have one of our boats at that marina, no issue with that, or your trailer park, or you don't necessarily have to own a cottage, but you do need somewhere to keep the boat
on the water
when it's not in use.
Right. At a marina. The perfect scenario would be to rent a slip at your favorite lake, a marina, and then get Rob's team to bring you a boat.
You wouldn't need a cottage at all.
You don't need a cottage. You go up there. You don't have to be there every weekend. The boat is moored in the slip in the marina, so it's safe and sound. And then when you need to get out boating, you just get up there and go.
Oh, yeah. Easier for Rob, too. They just got to drop at the marina right there. You don't have to drive it to the spot or anything. So,
fantastic business. I love the model, the absolute fantastic model especially for this part of the country. I don't know whether that model translates to expanding beyond this province. Are there any thoughts? Have you got anything cooking that you might want to expand beyond the borders of this province?
I think the model will work anywhere. Obviously for us, from our locations, in Sudbury, Timmins, Brantford, that becomes a little bit going out of province. So we'd have to obviously have some sort of association with another marina or dealer in those markets to really make it work properly.
Yeah, it might work though. Might, like you say, if Rob teams up with 4 or 5 marinas across Canada.
Exactly.
Good God, you have a great system going on.
I love
there,
it.
Right?
Love it.
The only thing I'm worried about in this whole system is Rob mentioned the boats up in north, and he said Grandpa's got a Woody. And I don't know what the hell I'm trying to expect on that one, but I've never heard that before in my life.
It's playing on you, isn't
it? I don't know if I want to go north anymore, to be honest. If he's out in the lake showing that shit off, you know what I mean, or something. So,
that's typical Mr. Bowman right there.
Yeah.
So it's called Freedom Cruises, and how can people find it? How can they contact you?
So Freedom Cruise Canada, we're on Facebook, and we have a website, freedomcruisecanada.ca. Go ahead, fire away the questions, send us an email, call us. We'll fill you in on, your specific needs and send you a quote. And you'll find that after you go through that information and weigh the numbers that if it makes sense for you, then, we can make it happen. We're by no means trying to, beat up on traditional boat buying, because we sell far more boats and will continue to sell far more boats than we rent. Yeah. But it's definitely something for some people, for a lot of the things that you mentioned, the reasons that you mentioned, that it works for them.
Yeah,
and
I really loved the story that you painted earlier on about maybe your grandkids decided that they want to come up for a month to the cottage this year, and you've got your 1978 bow rider, 16-foot bow rider that you've had since the beginning of time, and it's not going to be adequate for the whole family. Now you got another 12 people to worry about. Yeah. You can't just go out and buy a boat on a whim.
Right.
Why not just rent one for the summer?
So
I mean,
cool.
it's spectacular.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's just one small example. I mean, there's a multitude of examples where this makes sense. Versus just going out and purchasing one. Not the least of which, by the way, is when you go out and I don't want to say anything, like you just said, I don't want to say anything bad about buying a boat, because that's still the number one dream that we all have as Canadians. But you don't have to make a firm decision right away. You can try a boat for a year, for a season. Yeah. You don't have to commit to this style of boat or that style of boat, knowing full well that once you've bought it, you've spent the $50, $60, $70, $80,000 for that boat. Once you got it, you're stuck with it, because depreciation is going to keep you from being able to flip that boat the next year. We all know what that's all about. We haven't even talked about that benefit, by the way, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can say, hey, you know what? Let's try it. Let's try just a regular pontoon. Let's try a tri-toon. Let's try an 18-foot bow rider. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Are you putting the deck boats into this program, by the way?
So we can. It is a product that we sell, so we can certainly put that in there, as we can any other model that we sell. Once again, it comes down to the financial model, in the sense that what works best. At what point do we cross that threshold where, for example, if I'm going to tell you that I have to charge you $15,000 for the use of a deck boat for the summer, are you going to want to do that, or would you rather buy the boat and then maybe sell it in 2 or 3 years?
Well, what's depreciation on a boat every year?
So depreciation on boats is, as recreational products go, is the very least amount of depreciation on a boat. When we compare that to motorcycles, snowmobile, ATV, anything else, a boat has nowhere near, and I don't know what that is today, because through the last couple of years, the industry has seen obviously a huge surge in demand. We had customers coming in that had bought 2008, 2009 Bayliners from us, 175s, the little IO with a 3-liter, and they were getting as much for that boat on trade than they paid for them in 2008, 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Wow, so it's not bad.
We interrupt this program to bring you the much anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. This week's code is Striper. That's Striper. STRIPER, all uppercase. And don't forget, that's 1P. Just type that in the bonus code section of the contest and receive 100 free entries towards all our current giveaways. For those who haven't entered yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Head on over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. And now, back to the show. I want to talk to you about that. If we could kind of stray off this particular subject and get into the marine industry in particular, because it's been a real roller coaster since, I would say, 2018. Probably 19 was the real start of it. It's had so many ups and downs, so many changes, so many strange things in this industry that I think it's worth spending a couple of minutes talking about. Now, the latest thing, obviously, is the interest rates. Like, that's got to be a real kick in the pants for you guys. It's one thing, paying 6% interest on your home because you need a place to live. Maybe it even makes sense paying that on your car because you need your car to make a living and get to work. But it's got to be mentally difficult for people to look at that on a recreational vehicle like a boat. It just seems like that, once we get into that 5, 6, 7, 8% interest rate, it's got to be prohibitive in terms of buying ownership of a boat, which is another reason why this program you've got going is perfect.
Yeah. So on the interest, the interest rate is definitely top of mind. It's in the media every day. It's we don't see it as being a huge deterrent. It is definitely a question that consumers ask. It is something that we work through. But historically, I've been in the marine industry for over 30 years and the dealership's been around for 20 years longer than that. We've seen the ups and downs of interest rates. And right now we're probably middle of the road if we took, the 30-year average. I think the media has kind of played that up as being a lot worse than it actually is. At the end of the day, in any most loans that you're doing, they renew in 5 years. So although you're taking out a loan for 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 years, depending on the value of that boat, that interest rate is going to turn in 5 years. And all indicators are that we should see a decrease in the next 2 to 3 years. So by the time your 5-year term comes up, we would expect that rate would decrease. But once again, I remember I bought my first new snowmobile in 1989, and I think I paid like 13% interest at that time. And that was normal.
I was going to say, as I asked you the question about how difficult is it at 6% interest, it just threw me back when I was in the boat dealer business. We were at 12 and 13% selling boats.
6 sounds good right now when you look at it that way, right?
Yeah, it wasn't an issue. It was not an issue at all. I think one of the biggest problems is that we've had that nice, 1 and 2% interest rate for a few
spoils
years,
everybody.
And it's now we're spoiled, right?
But you mean you're obviously now, when you look at the price of boats, it's like, what the hell? This is crazy. But we heard this week, Rob, that the price might be starting to come down on boats too. I don't know if you've heard anything about that because the materials now are getting back post-COVID and they're starting to get a little easier to get and cheaper again. Is that a possibility that boat prices will be going down?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to come down in the sense from what we purchase them for, because as you said, the price of materials and the price of labor have not changed. Although some stuff has become a little bit more kind of fixed in the sense there's no surprises in that, when they're budgeting for production for the season and they're buying aluminum, they're buying components, they have a fixed cost now. 2 years ago, there was no fixed cost. That changed by the week in some cases.
Right.
What you will see in the marine industry are retail programs. So we saw them late fall, and we'll fully expect to see them again at the boat show where manufacturers will be bringing rebates, and those will be focused in on the inventory that's in the field. So, for example, if a certain segment there's more of that, well then that particular product will encompass a greater rebate than, let's say, something that's not, very plentiful in the field. Part of the issue that we ran into was there was so much demand on factories, and they were trying so hard to spool up. And by the time that they did, we got basically out of season. So we were getting, boat products late summer for that model year. And the same happened with snowmobiles and many other products. So we ended up with our inventories being out of cycle. So it's going to take us, we figure, about 18 months to get back into cycle. So we're not top loaded with snowmobiles in the summer and top loaded with boats, when we shouldn't be.
What does this mean for the average consumer, though, Rob? What does that mean to somebody who's looking to get into that market?
It's a buyer's market.
It is a buyer's market.
It's a buyer's market.
Okay, well,
Cool.
that's positive news for a change, because it sure as hell has not been a buyer's market for the last 3 years. So this is great news. You mentioned the boat show. I'm assuming you're talking about the international boat or the Toronto Boat Show.
Toronto International Boat Show.
Are you going to be there?
I will be in the Princecraft booth. Freedom, we looked at that. We did the Cottage Life show in the fall, and we were blown away with the response that we had at that show. And I think part of that reason was that we were able to put a boat in the booth.
Right.
And if we go to the Toronto International Boat Show, because Princecraft is there as a manufacturer, we could not have a boat in a booth at the Toronto show. And for that reason, I think we will pass on that show, and we will be at the spring Cottage Life show.
Oh,
so
interesting.
you would not be allowed to have a boat in your booth? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct, because the Toronto International Boat Show in January is supported by the manufacturers, and they have their own. They have corporate booths.
Right.
So when they have, for example, I will work that booth. I've worked that booth for the last 15 years, and I'll be in that booth as a Princecraft dealer.
Yeah.
So you could not have another boat. Like I couldn't have a J&B booth with a Princecraft boat or a Bayliner boat or anything like that.
I didn't know that.
Could you talk to about the Freedom Cruises though at the Princecraft? By the way, I'm a dealer, but I also have this here, that. Look at this. See, those suckers are all available.
We'll put a good word in with JP.
We're gonna talk to the boys at Princecraft.
I gotta wear the hat that I gotta wear when I'm standing in that booth.
You got so much product right there. You can say, "Oh my God, it's gonna kill you."
I still gotta sell boats.
True enough.
How are these shows coming along? You've been doing them for years. Has the internet, or if not the internet, certainly the digital world, affected performances at these shows, or consumers showed out? What's your opinion of that? We've been asking all kinds of people that, not just boat shows, but I'm talking shows in general.
Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer in a show. I really am, and I think that sometimes there's too much emphasis on the boat buyer, and I think when we're talking about shows, you got to be looking over the boat buyer's shoulder and at the young couple with the stroller and behind them. And that is the next buyer. And that's what for me, that's what really those shows do, is people go in and they look and then they get interested, and then down the road. So it's seeding those future sales. The boat buyer themselves, it has changed in the sense that when they walk into the booth, they generally know exactly what they're looking for. They just want to see it in 3D. They want to be able to touch it. They want to be able to sit in it. They want to be able to all do that stuff that they can't do on the internet. They've done all the research. They know all the options. They know all the features. They know the horsepower. They know all that stuff. But now they've zeroed it into maybe a couple different models, and that's why they're going to the show. That's what's sealing, the deal in their mind.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it is. You're right. It is. The demo's changing for sure. And the show is the only place you can really touch and feel that and experience it.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic, my friend. I think you've got something that a lot of people are going to be talking about here in the months and years to come.
He's sitting on a good one right now, I think.
I think so.
It does sound good to me.
Once again, folks can look you up either at J&B Cycle. Obviously, that's the first place they can find you. You have a Facebook presence with the rental business as well.
Yeah, so Freedom Cruise Canada on Facebook, and then we have the website freedomcruisecanada.ca, where you can reach out in either format to get more information and find out more about that product for sure.
Sounds fantastic, my friend. I want to thank you for joining us. A real pleasure having you on the show. What's going to happen to the Fishing Canada boat, by the way? What is somebody going to be lucky enough to be able to buy that?
Yeah, well, so we brought it in. As you know, I towed it back from Oshawa. Yep. Got home very late the next day, put it in our detail bay, and my detail guys were ecstatic because it was so clean.
Yes.
There was no fish residue in that boat whatsoever. There was nothing.
That may be a good thing. Oh, God, we didn't catch him too good again, eh?
We were, it's been a few years since we've had to return a boat, right? So we were so paranoid about that boat this year.
God,
my
we
God.
mopped that floor with soap on my cleaners. And it was good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that, actually.
Normally, we just come crashing into docks and tie her up and get in for the night. With this boat, we had a whole strategic plan before we were approaching the dock. We had to take wind direction and speeds and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. No, it's a great boat package, and so we've photographed it and used some of the photos that you supplied as well. Yeah, and it's in storage now, and it's available to purchase. And
so there you go. So if you're in the market for
fully rigged,
the fishing boat of all fishing boats. We used it for an entire season this year on the Fishing Canada show. So it's the boat that you'll be seeing in the 24 broadcast season.
Yep. 200 Expedition dual console and loaded. We mean loaded with the 250.
It is loaded
Pro
for
Access.
sure.
Yeah.
The electronics in that boat are nothing short of stunning.
It's got to be like 20 plus grand in electronics, doesn't it? 20, 30 grand?
I think 23.
Over 30.
Over 30?
Over 30. Thank you.
That's insane. You know what I mean?
So if you are looking, if you're in the market for that boat, there is one sitting right now in Timmins, and Rob can certainly. I'm sorry?
Well, there's two. We have our Pro Staff demo as well, which is the identical model, but in a full windshield.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
But it does not have the roster of electronics that your machine had. That's for sure. I don't have that budget.
It's fully loaded. You could not add anything to this boat.
No.
I don't care who you are. There's nothing that you can say, oh yeah, but wait a minute. I need to put, because it doesn't. It has everything available to you, and it's available.
Take a look on the website on J&B Cycle Marine.
It's there too, right? So they can look at it.
Yeah, jbcycle.com. Yeah.
It's got to be worth a couple $100,000, isn't it?
It's got to be worth it.
No?
Not even close, eh, Rob?
No.
Oh,
Rob's got it priced very well.
All right.
That's right. We do. Yeah.
Well, the fact that we use it on the Fishing Canada show, it's an extra $100,000, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean,
I would think
the royalties that go back. That's
exactly.
The one. That's
we got no scales, and it means we didn't catch any fish in it. What the hell?
We have the proof, my friend.
We do.
We have the proof. All right, listen, Rob, we're going to cut you loose, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us. Absolute pleasure. We'd like to bring you back maybe in the spring of the year to see how the program has gone, the rental program. I definitely want to stay on top of it because I think it's a tremendous opportunity, whether you're a seasoned veteran, a brand new cottage owner, or just curious about different styles of boats. I think the rental program might just fit into what your needs would be. So let's stay on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right on, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity, and hope to see you up walleye fishing here in Northern Ontario. You know, we have some of the best walleye fishing in the world.
You do.
By the way, your son told us all about it. Okay, so he's already done the sales pitch on us.
For sure.
Yeah.
Great kid.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, take care, my friend.
Good seeing you.
Wow, that's an interesting program.
That's cool.
I
You know
love
what we
it.
also need to get is if we get Rob on again and we're moving further into this, we need to get a couple of people's opinions, either written or somebody that's rented the boat for the year, and say, oh my God, you wouldn't, because that would. I think they would really sell that package even better. You know what I mean? It can't be any. There's not going to be any negatives to it.
I'm trying to think of the negatives as we're going through the process. I was trying to think of the negatives. Like,
there's not a lot.
What could there possibly be that would be negative? You know how much you know what it's costing you up front. You've already paid it, so that part's done. It's brand new boat and motor. Mm-hmm. So if anything goes wrong with it, it's all taken care of. They send a service person over to look after you.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
They deliver it.
That doesn't happen anywhere.
No,
without cost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They deliver it and tie it to your dock.
Teach you how to dock it. Teach you little driving tips, and
then in fall they pick it up.
Yeah,
what?
And then if you wanted to buy it, it comes off the price too, right? It's part of the. Although
for the life of me, I think once you start into this program, I don't know why you would want to buy it.
Yeah.
Because now that you've had a full season on this boat, now you're familiar with what you like and don't like. Now you can sit down over the winter and
do a little
order.
Upgrade, a little side 23 footer instead of a 21. Let's see how that works different. A tri-tune instead of a pontoon.
No top, shelter, no. I mean, it goes, because I know the options on these boats the list is endless.
Oh yeah. And by the way, people listening, a pontoon boat, because that's the main boats that Rob is renting, they're very fishable boats. You know what I mean? There's not like you can't fish out of them. It's not just a pleasure boat. They're fantastic for trolling. You could put portable rod holders on it, stuff like that. You can actually, some of them you can put a trolling motor on if you want it, but for drift fishing, for trolling, stuff like that, they're great. They're a great vehicle for that.
You say some of them, you can put an electric motor on any of them.
Yeah, probably all of them, yeah.
And they work pretty efficiently. The pontoons nowadays are not like the old pontoons. These things are very, very efficient. Mm-hmm. They're designed to have the least amount of resistance on the water. In fact, if you look at a tri-tune takes that to a whole new level. But if you look at conventional pontoon boats, the newer style pontoon boats, there's less drag than a conventional V-hull in most cases. Yep.
Well, you said they're light too, right? So they're light.
The only downside is that they're light and they sit on top of the water, and therefore you have to take the wind into account. It's a lot more than you would.
You might be using just even a conventional anchor a lot. Fish a spot, you drop an anchor, and then you lift the anchor up and move. If you have a trolling motor, then that's different. But
either way, I think if you're looking for a serious fishing boat, then obviously there are a lot of other options.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying that you can still fish out of a pontoon boat.
We fish out of houseboats.
Yeah.
So you want to fish.
We did a full season or 2 seasons with a deck boat, which is the same thing as a pontoon boat.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Anyways, it's a fascinating business, and for you out there that might be sitting on the fence on making that new boat purchase, this might be the perfect alternative to get your feet wet, see if you like it, if you don't. So it's cost you, as Rob said, it costs you a trip to Disney. Mm-hmm. Look at it that way, right? Except you had it all year.
Absolutely.
So, fantastic. Yep. Hey, it was a good show, buddy.
Yeah, that was great.
Want to remind everybody about the fishingcanada.com contests that are ongoing. I want to also remind people, we haven't done this for a long time, to, give us a response to these podcasts. Let us know. Give us a comment. How about a rating? Maybe a rating would be kind of nice. I know you have your favorite. 5 is your favorite rating, right?
I think you're an 8.
I'm an 8?
You're an 8.
Thank you. I won't
it's all
even
one
ask
word.
You. There he is. He is alive.
Hey, dude. Thank you, buddy.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. You were gone for a while.
I stepped out.
Good. Yeah. Did everything work out?
Everything's good. Everything's good.
Good. I love
good man,
that.
Dino. Nice little rating on our podcast and
subscribe. How about a subscribe?
How about they even do that to our YouTube channel too while they're at it?
Let's do that too.
Do
everything. Give us
lots of love.
Lots of love.
That's it.
That are it for the entire team of Volvo. Nice to have him back in studio. He's been ill for the last few days.
A lot of sick people around here.
A lot of sick people. But everybody seems to be coming back. Nick is missing as usual. Dean, you were kind of into the Nick mode for a while there.
But for a little bit. I'm better now.
You're better now?
I'm good.
All right. That's Dean Taylor. He's Peter Bowman. I'm Angelo Biel. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll catch you next time.